Hello everyone, and welcome to the ever-exploring world of marvelous videos. Today, we're going to dig into the boys' world, and shovel out a dark tale of one of its OG members, Mother's Milk. How did the boy's second in line, the first in line, then second in line again, come to his death? In the comics that are credited as the prime inspiration for the TV series, MM died at the hands of none other than his good friend, colleague, and confidant, Billy Butcher. That's right. Though it sounds awful that Butcher would stoop so low, if you get into the whole story, it's even worse than what you think. MM and Butcher's relationship was by no means smooth, but they also shared an obvious bond, which would have been pretty hard to sever unless of course one of them ended up killing the other. Now, there's a world of difference between the Boys Prime series and the comics, as the series continuously shuffles the characters and situations around from the source material. But one thing that seems to be making the same A-line in both versions is Butcher going into super bad mode armed with a soup-killing bioweapon. And on this hell ride, his first roadblock was none other than Mother's Milk. In this video, we'll give you a blow-by-blow of how Mother's Milk found himself in a face-off with Butcher, and how he died because of it. Before we jump in, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you, and let's go. Mother's Milk and Billy Butcher's relationship. To better understand MM and Butcher's relationship, we have to understand where Baron Wallace came from. Baron, which is Mother's Milk's original name in the comics, was an original member of the soup control and policing unit we know as the Boys. Even though it's pretty self-explanatory, we'll just put it out there for you. His nickname comes from his ongoing need for his mother's milk to survive. When he was a baby, he almost died by shriveling up when his mom weaned him off. His mother was compelled to put him back on the breast, and he was soon as healthy as ever. Since then, he's always been on the milk and needed it to keep himself going even as an adult. Some theories suggest that it was the V in his mother's concoction that he needed in regular rotation. MM's mom used to work in a Vought factory, which was previously a lab where compound V-related testing and cooking was done. The lab was dismantled without a proper cleanup, leaving remnants of V all over the factory, due to which MM's mom got some in her system. Mother's Milk was born with V inherently in him, which later turned him into a super strong and durable soup. His father spent his life fighting Vought in court, and this only escalated further when his mentally challenged brother died as a result of his powers kicking in. The quest eventually took his father's life. Not long after his father's passing, MM joined the Army Rangers and became a heavyweight fighter. It was within the boxing ring that MM's powers first kicked in. On an especially excruciating fight night, when the other guy was bringing it to MM and MM seemed as good as done, his guys started asking him to quit. He wouldn't do that, so they went into the next round. To the arena's surprise, MM uppercut the guy's head off in the first lumbered strike. He landed himself in the army prison for that, and this is where he first met Butcher. Butcher approached MM when he was behind bars and started dishing details of his personal life. He then explained to a shocked MM that his entire little existence was recorded and maintained in Vought's archives. MM was livid at how the corporation was trying to keep tabs on all its potentials, so to speak. So Butcher got him out and recruited him for his boys outfit, which was still in the early stages of conception, and Mother's Milk proved to be a more significant asset than he had bargained for. He soon became the second in command after Butcher. Together, Butcher and him navigated a myriad of missions trying to uncover Vought's crimes and sock it to the soups in general. They both had a personal vendetta against Vought, and this enhanced their mutual bond. There was one particular incident that left a heavy imprint on their relationship. After MM had been with the boys for a year, Butcher got clearance to use the boys' official resources to find MM's baby daughter, whom he was completely broken up about. Her drug addict mother had the baby with her in the worst nook in the world. She was camping out at a dangerous drug runner's hideout called Little, who was dealing out coke laced with V. His dingy compound was filled with the messiest addicts you've ever seen. While MM had an uncomfortable word with Little inside a room, Butcher waited outside, surrounded by his drugged-out army. They mobbed up against Butcher and beat him within an inch of his life. But MM got his daughter, Janine, out of that hole, and as you can imagine, he was indebted to Butcher forever for pulling that off with him. Years later, when they had just taken Stormfront and the Payback out, he had a heart-to-heart with Huey and told him all about that incident. MM's daughter actually refers to Butcher as Uncle Billy. That's how strong their unspoken bond was. Mother's Milk realizes Butcher's gone bad. As the boys' saga hurtles toward its curtain call, there comes a rare moment of peace. In the TV series, the boys seem to be taking a forced hiatus right about now in some foreign lands with their new ID'd passports. That's the note that Season 4 ended on. In the comics, after Homelander's coup gets squashed at the White House, and Butcher finally avenges Becky's death by crowbarring Black Noir's brains out, he lets the boys take a breather on their own. He asks them to take a few months off as there isn't much work to do and the boys are ecstatic. The soup business has them totally exhausted, and they go on their own merry way. MM gets some extra time to spend with Janine, but Janine had landed herself in a bit of soup. At this point, she was 12, but looked like she was about 17. That was Compound V's inheritance working on her. And she seemed to have run into Butcher not too long ago, a meeting which has left her quite shaken. Janine didn't want to face up to her father, so she rented her own place. But of course, with his investigative experience, found her quicker than a fox. He went straight to her pad and found her miserably out of sorts. Janine started out by complaining about not being around all that much, but then went deeper into her issues. At her mother's behest, she'd played a part in an adult movie. Almost went over the roof with that one and wanted to know where Janine's mother was so he could teach her a hard-earned lesson. But as it turns out, Butcher beat him to the punch. After Janine's film went viral, Butcher went to the adult filmmaker's office, where Janine was present with her mom. He killed the filmmaker and his bodyguard, and then crushed Janine's mother's face in, right in front of her. By then, Mother's milk is like seething fire from his nostrils. It probably isn't that Butcher killed the lot, it's because he killed them in front of Janine. Meanwhile, Huey'd been keeping busy. He had worked out that Butcher split the boys up so he could go on his grand scheme for the soup kind. He had gotten himself a variant of V from Russia that could blow soups out of the water on a massive scale, and he had already killed Voss, the love sausage, to cover that transaction up. Huey, Frenchie, and the female regroup and decide to stop Butcher from the soup annihilation mission he's on. How Butcher killed Mother's Milk in the comics. After meeting the boys, Mother's Milk goes to the boys' vacant HQ to try and fish out more information on Butcher's plan, but it appears that all the files in Butcher's computer have been wiped clean. He gets lucky, or unlucky another way though. The boys have so far had no contact with Butcher in a while and have been looking for him, and as unsuccessfully taps over Butcher's keypad, the man himself walks right in. He asks why he isn't back home taking care of his daughter. Hasn't so quickly forgotten what Butcher put his daughter through either, and has a lot to bring to Butcher to book about. He asks Butcher the burning question he already knows the answer to. Is Butcher really going through with his plan of exterminating the soups like a horde of locusts? Butcher grins the very same grin he clairvoyantly took to his death in a later issue, and tells he's really going through with it. No more words were needed after that. Mother's Milk flings Butcher on the wall. They go at it, and Mother's Milk gets some big boy haymakers in, until Butcher is on the floor on a pile of broken furniture. It's clear that does not want to do Butcher in like that. He's his friend, but he just cannot let him go down this psychopathic track. Even as is hammering Butcher down, he's yelling that he doesn't want to do this, asking Butcher why he's become so crazy. And Butcher knows is working against his own will. Butcher doesn't want to harm him either, but now is in his way, and we all know Butcher will not stop until he gets what he sets out for. To him, soups wield too much power and shouldn't exist. As grabs him again, Butcher tells him that he's his best mate he could have asked for, and he doesn't deserve him. Mother's Milk pauses momentarily, and Butcher pulls out a grenade. The pin is off. He sticks it in face and it blows up. Mother's Milk burns beyond recognition. His eyes melt and he's reduced to a red scalding puddle. His tenacity is something else. He's still sucking in breaths after that explosion. Still alive. Butcher smothers him, saying he's got no friends, and the light leaves Butcher leans on the wall and sits near him, drinking in the misery of becoming a consummate wretch. Marvelous verdict. No matter how many times you watch the boys do the most shocking thing ever, they always outdo themselves the next time you read through an unread issue. The Prime series is no different in that regard. Mother's Milk's killing in the comics shook the house up. It was an absolutely horrifying and unforgivable incident that would turn many fans to accept Butcher's distortion into a bona fide villain. There's a considerable backstory for through the earlier issues, and everyone was emotionally involved with his tribulations. And he's got so much going on with his daughter to sort out that the way he dies is completely without any kind of closure. It honestly makes the reader thoroughly mad at Butcher for the first time. Well, the look he's got in the Prime series finale is just around the curb from the comic Butcher here, so we look forward to seeing what mayhem Butcher and his new tentacles get up to in Season 5. In regards to Mother's Milk in particular, I know fans will not mind if Eric Kripke tossed the comic ending out and give him the happy family man ending he deserves. That's it from us for now, but we can't wait to hear your thoughts on our video, so please get busy in the comments, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Bye for now!